Hey there, it's a new week. Today is Monday, July 27th, 2026, and here we are continuing to talk about the saga of the Siders family in Vinton County, Ohio. Something occurred to me as I was researching, new things that were happening in the case today. It's something that, the news is old. It's from the 20th or something like that, so it's more than a week old, but it had just gone right over my head. And that is, and we've talked about this multiple times over the, month or so that we have been talking about this case. And that is that the state of Ohio has signaled that they want to permanently remove the 16 children that were found in filth and squalor in that little Vinton County home down in Hamden, Ohio, that that ended in 16 counts, felony counts, against four different people. The children's reported mother, Elizabeth, reported father, Gary 2, we're going to call him, and grandparents, Christina and Gary 1. And in all the conversations that I've had about this, I've kind of just assumed that the state was like, yeah, we're gonna take them out of there, and then we're going to figure out what the best thing is. And I thought that it would take a little bit longer to figure out what the best thing is, but the signal that we're getting is that Ohio is like, nah, these kids are ours, and we are going to take care of them. We're going to find them a better place to live and grow, and hopefully cultivate good citizens and happy adults. Address their childhood trauma, perhaps, and spend millions of dollars along the way. By the way, I'm okay with that. But it is they're we're talking about millions of dollars here. So it's important that we bring that up. So we're going to talk about that today, get into it deeply. We're probably going to go a little bit longer than I normally would on my daily live stream, but I think it's just because we have so much to talk about. We've also got some of the latest news in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case, the De Forvita case. He has been held over for trial. There has been a finding of probable cause. We're going to get into that, along with news out of the Nancy Guthrie case, the Lynette Hooker, the Kata Scott case we haven't heard about in quite a while. Of course, we've got good news, and we've got 3 questions. So we've got a lot to get to today, and I hope that you will enjoy it, and I hope that you will stick with me. Javi, go ahead and push that button, man. This video contains mature themes and discussions intended only for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello there, my friend. Welcome back to another True Crime Conversation with me, Gavin Fish. Thank you so much for being here. So grateful that you would choose to spend your time either on the live stream or in the rewatch crew here on YouTube or on Spotify, or watching clips on Facebook, or whatever, listening throughout the fruited plain, throughout the world, on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you all so much, especially when it comes to this case, which I think is an important case for us to discuss. And at least here on YouTube, these videos about the Siders case, because the crimes that are alleged are so egregious, YouTube demonetizes it. And what does that mean? That just means that YouTube is like, you know what? Most advertisers don't want to advertise on this. And that's why I've set a goal for some super chats today. I hope you will consider helping me out financially as we discuss this case. It sure does help me, it helps the channel. But there are tons of free ways that you can also help, right? You can, if you're a Spotify Premium Video member, please join the Rewatch crew over on Spotify. Definitely check me out on all the socials. Share, like, subscribe. All of it goes so far. If you can't or don't want to, help financially, don't even stress, man. Don't even worry about it, because just being here is huge. It's just absolutely huge. It helps my channel grow and helps the message get out to more people. So thank you for that. You know what I forgot to do in the cold open is, hey, let's talk about the question of the day. Let's talk about the question of the day. Guys, get your thumbs ready to go on your phones to answer the question of the day. Yeah, that's right. I give you homework. You guys just want to sit back and relax. Most of you watch on a TV here on YouTube, which used to surprise me, but I think it's actually pretty cool. You can sit back in your little lazy boy, put your feet up, and have a true crime conversation with me. But grab your phones and answer the question of the day. What's something people would definitely want you on their team for, right? Were you the kid that was picked last to be on the sports ball team? I was. I was just such a weak little kid, and I came from a pretty sporty family, but it just wasn't my deal. I was always the last person picked. I was weak of musculature and a skeletal system as a little kid. But there are certain things, that people wanted Gavin on their team for, and I bet the same is true for you. So I'd love to hear that, and always put GF in your comment. That will help me on my side to be able to see your comment. Okay, and thank you. Okay, so guys, let's just do a little recap here. June 30th, police in Vinton County, Ohio, southeastern Ohio, headed over to the home of Gary Siders the old second. Some refer to him as Junior. I just call him G2. They were there, we found out, to serve a warrant for 4 counts of indecent exposure. While there, they found the squalid conditions inside this home, and they found 16 children living in these conditions, ranging from 18 months to 18 years. But even the 18-year-old was described as developmentally challenged, I guess is probably, I mean, that's me paraphrasing, but there were learning disabilities, there were developmental issues. They were also described, many of them, as needing hospital care. Some of them were airlifted. The Attorney General of the state of Ohio, a guy named Andy Wilson, in a press conference, described the children as feral. The Vinton County Sheriff, Ryan Kane, described the conditions as the worst he's ever seen. Now, defense attorney Tommy Stolley, who is Elizabeth Siders' attorney, said, come on, that has been debunked. They were not feral children. They had social media accounts, for crying out loud, right? So there's some pushback, and we've got to remember that this is just what is alleged to have happened, right? This is what law enforcement, prosecution, and politicians are saying happened here, right? But there are two sides to every story. And one of the sides to the story is, I was talking to my buddy Elizabeth Jones from Hillbilly Crime, is, Elizabeth Jones, having been raised in the same, a similar poverty-stricken area, kind of has a different take. She hopes that Elizabeth Siders will be given a second chance. And I see both sides of the issue, right? One part of me says, take those kids away and help them. And another part of me says, they're better together. They're better with kin. And like, I think it's okay for us to struggle with these questions, right? In fact, I put the struggle into a poll over here on YouTube. 75% of you, when I asked, should the children be taken permanently by the state of Ohio, or should the Siders family get a second chance? 75% of you say they should be permanently taken. 25% say they should be given a second chance. And so, it does seem pretty overwhelming what you guys feel, but but we are of two opinions, right? We are of two opinions, and it's okay. Let's see. Mother of Dragons 24. Let me see if I can get this up here on the screen. Thank you very much for the first super chat. Thanks for getting us started. If she gets support, I feel like she can do it, is what Mother of Dragons says. If she gets that support, possible. I don't know, right? But thank you very much. Thank you for your sentiment and for your support. Let's turn to what people are saying with the question of the day here real quick before we really dig in. Mother of Dragons again on a previous comment. I feel Elizabeth should get a second chance if her and her hubby are not together. Okay. It's an interesting take. Permanent for them would mean the rest of their childhood. If they get rehabilitated, by the time they are adults, there is time to reconnect again. That, Miss Cubana, that is a valid and astute observation. Yeah, they could choose. If they were taken away permanently by the state, they could choose in their adulthood to reconnect with their parents or not, right? It's a complex situation. Complex. Just Ducky says, Gavin, seems like a lot of money, but how much would have been spent if all the kids and parents were in the system as each came along? Yeah. In cases like these where we've got potential crimes that have been committed, and certainly some, I think that we can all agree. Well, maybe we can't all agree, but so let's call it alleged CA. I certainly don't mind taxpayer money being spent. I don't. But it's a difficult question. Okay, Ellie Griffin answers the question of the day. Definitely Harry Potter trivia. You know what I did today? I like watching clips on YouTube. I watched the scene in which one was it? It was the Deathly Hallows Part 1, I think, where Harry and Hermione and Ron get their bequeathments from Dumbledore's will. I watched that just today. I love Harry Potter. Tamika or Tamika or Tammy Calder. I'm not. I'm so sorry. Says the smartass team. That's funny. Pluck the Patriarchy says people would want me on their team because I know a lot about edible and healing herbs and foraging them in preparation. Ah, good for you. I am one of those guys that I would love to be able to forage for mushrooms, but with my knowledge base, I would forage poisonous mushrooms and die. So definitely don't want to do that. Erica says, definitely if something needed to be argued, I would always get picked. Watching from Marin County, Indiana. Thank you very much. Let's see. Tina May says, looming for something that is lost or any mom type things like that. Good. Child of God 3675 says, I was always the last kid picked. Yep. Let's see. Lenny Fisk says, I can sew just about anything, but sports is not my thing. You can sew. Guys, I'm so excited because on later this week, I finally found somebody who can alter a suit that I purchased. For almost 10 years, we've been living in Western PA, and I have not had anybody that can alter or tailor my clothing. It has been driving me crazy, but I found somebody connected to the local theater. I'm so excited. Miss Cubana says, I always picked last in sports, usually picked to do the talking in group projects. I was even the deliberator in my first jury duty. I'm a talker. Good for you. Good to know oneself. Mooney says baseball, although I doubt I could catch anymore. I got a mean bat. Archangel says maybe because I'm kind of smart, but if it was sport, I don't think anyone would choose me. Mother of Dragons, no one wanted to pick me for anything. Smoky Montana is in the house. That Montana sunshine being hidden by the smoke, I'm guessing. Crafting team and bargain hunting, says Gwendolyn Shepard. Robin says, I would be picked for a team to serve up comic relief and energetic entertainment. The game might suck, but we are going to laugh. I love that. Melissa says, when my kids were young, the moms would always want me to cook the meat for the burgers to sell during halftime. All right, you were the burger cooker. Very nice. Just Ducky says, archery. Nice. Let's see. Ellie's stupid unicorn. Le stupid unicorn. Is that what it is? To answer the question, they used to pick me for brains. It's actually ADHD interests and creative thinking. I love it. A couple more. It just refreshed. Moni says, play catcher. I definitely can catch. I just can't crouch for 9 innings. Yeah, maybe you are a 3-inning catcher. Archangel says, I think she should have a second chance, but can she actually in a position to take care of the children? All of them? Yeah, probably not right now. Mother of Dragons, well, if we do that, I would be picked for Game of Thrones trivia or House of the Dragons. I watched them on repeat. They are addicting, for sure. And Shawnabo says, I think maybe baking. I made a chiffon cake from scratch for the 4th and took it to work, and that thing was gone in 45 minutes. Hand embroidery from Lynn Taylor. You guys are all talented. Awesome. Thank you very much for playing along with the old question of the day. And thank you for putting GF in the comments. That helps me to see it on my side. All right, and checking in with the poll, we're at 73-27, permanently taken. I think I'll go ahead and end that poll. Thank you very much for playing along. Okay, let me start off going over to Acrobat to an article from the 23rd, so 5 days ago. And I remember reading this article and sharing it with you then, but I just didn't pick up on things. So I want to revisit it. This from WOUB. Vinton County prosecutor asks county commissioners for more money to help in the Siders case. Now, remember, when we're talking about asking for money, we're actually talking about two different things in terms of our conversation today. Number one is money to help care for the children. And number two is money to help prosecute the Siders adults. And this article actually talks a little bit about both. But when the Vinton County prosecutor is asking for money, he's asking for county funds to help prosecute the case. Okay? But there's more in the article. Okay. The Vinton County Prosecutor's Office asked the county commissioners for additional money to help with the cost of the Siders case. Prosecutor William Archer, I'll bring up his photo right here. Bill Archer asked for additional money at a July 14th commissioners meeting. Archer has been prosecuting the child endangerment case against Gary Siders Jr., Gary Siders Sr., Elizabeth Siders, and Christina Siders. The four are charged with 16 counts of, let's call it CE, with Gary Jr. separately casing, I'm trying to pour water and read at the same time, with Gary Jr. separately facing 4 counts of public indecency. The four are accused of keeping 16 kids in conditions that authorities have described as horrific. Archer asked for an additional $20,000 to aid his office in the prosecution, and because children's services would be an additional burden to the county. Well, that's interesting. I don't understand how Archer would be asking for more money outside of the purview of his prosecution, unless children's services are within his prosecution, right? If they're doing interviews for him or for his office or consulting or something like that. Okay. And I learned a little bit about Children Protective Services in the state of Ohio that we're going to get into. Okay, Archer said the 16 children are part of a juvenile court case where the state is seeking to take permanent custody. Let's highlight this. Of the kids on behalf of the county. Let's repeat. The state is seeking to take permanent custody of the kids on behalf of the county. His request for the $20,000 came just a day after the Ohio Controlling Board approved $1 million toward the children's care. According to the minutes, the commissioners will discuss where this money will come from. The minutes for the July 21 meeting have not been made public yet, as they have not been approved by the commissioners. And by the way, they typically approve the minutes at the next commissioners meeting. So that won't happen probably until the second week of August. I looked up to see if I could find the minutes publicly. I couldn't. I did not go through the effort of calling and requesting that document. This is good reporting from a local news agency. So, okay. So what did we learn? We learned that Ohio is like, we are taking permanent custody of these kids. Now, I did a little research and I have notes up here that I just want to kind of talk about. I'm not going to show you my notes because they are disjointed. I'm going to just do my best to be as organized as I possibly can. Okay. So let me just consult my notes here. Okay, so WOUB, we just reported that the prosecutor told commissioners the state is seeking permanent custody on behalf of the county. That moves the story from emergency removal to a juvenile court fight over the children's long-term and legal care. It's juvenile court, therefore none of that stuff is available online. Most of it is sealed. I think that if I were on the ground in Vinton County, I might be able to get access to some of those documents, but I think it's okay that we don't get into the details of those things, just simply out of concern for the privacy and the well-being of the 16 children, right? Okay, so the county asked for $20,000 for the prosecutor. The state has already funded $1 million approved for placement-related costs. Now, I found this document. Let me bring you over to this one. This is from a Department of Children and Youth meeting from the 13th of July. Okay, and this is the actual request for the $1 million to care for these 16 children. There are a couple little details that we find in here. The Ohio Department of Children and Youth, the DCY, respectfully requests the Controlling Board approval to establish a new fund and line item and to transfer cash and appropriation authority in the amount of $1 million from Fund 5KMO appropriation item 911614, Controlling Board Emergency Purpose Contingency Fund, to new Fund 5EB1 line item 830626, Vinton County Supplemental Children's Services for Emergency Funds to Vinton County. So it's basically like, hey, Ohio Controlling Board, you control the money. We would like you to reach into your contingency fund, your emergency fund, and transfer over to a new fund, $1 million buckaroos. All right. And then, it's fiscal year 2027. And here's what they're asking for, right? From the CEB to the KID, from 5KMO to 5EB1, from the Controlling Board Emergency Purposes Contingencies to the Vinton County Supplemental Children's Services, $1 million. Brand spanking new. Here's the explanation. Vinton County, home to approximately 12,600 residents, has the 7th lowest median income in Ohio and is currently experiencing an unprecedented child welfare crisis. In a single day, South Central Ohio Job and Family Services. Let's pause there, okay? South Central Ohio Job and Family Services is a shared agency, and this happens in many counties, especially small rural counties. It's a shared agency that is basically an agency that looks after the well-being of children, right? That's part of their purview. And so we're going to look into them just a little bit more here in just a bit, but they are the ones that are handling the 16-siders children. Okay, so in a single day, South Central Ohio Job and Family Services, the county's Children Services Agency, took custody of 16 children, a 55% increase in the agency's overall census, and more than doubling the number of children in temporary custody. A 55% increase in the agency's overall census. I don't even know what I don't know what that means. But doubling the number of children in temporary custody, I get, right? It's more than doubling. So they had less than 16 in custody in Vinton County. Now they have a little more than double that. Placement costs alone are projected at $150 to $250 per child per day, creating an estimated annual fiscal impact of more than $850,000 for this small community. The situation requires immediate state contingency funding to protect vulnerable children and address needs not covered under current budget planning. The Department of Children and Youth respectfully requests a $1 million emergency allocation to stabilize these essential services and address an emergent and developing child protection crisis. All funds will be tracked separately and used exclusively for placement-related supports and necessary court actions, while federal funding opportunities will be utilized wherever possible. And we understand this was approved, right? This was the application, but it was approved. South Central Ohio Job and Family Services, working in coordination with the county's Family and Children First Council, is well positioned to administer these resources efficiently and ensure vulnerable children receive the safety, treatment, and support they urgently require, while also prioritizing and supporting the broader community needs if necessary, i.e., court costs, police department overtime, etc., in preparation for court proceedings. So, yeah, it does seem like there is some overlap between the care of the children and the prosecution of the parents and grandparents. It makes me wonder what the typical cost per child per day is. I would imagine that they're looking, I would imagine that this is an indication that there are greater needs with these children. Just the fact that they put it on here. I would imagine that the number is lower for children with lower needs, right? I don't know. I'm just guessing here. But $1.50 to $2.50 per day. And let me rephrase that without using slang. $150 to $250 per day is a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's not even close to what my family of 7 requires. I'm sorry. My family of 7 requires not even close to that in a day, right? So that's a lot. That means hospital care, mental health care, emotional health care, transportation, schooling. They're probably way behind in their education. And then, there might be a protective component of it. There's certainly a court component of it, traveling back and forth to court, these poor kids testifying and being interviewed, and just so many things. So that's what the $1 million is set aside for. Now, let's see. Okay. Now, what I learned from the research on this is that the state has the power to fund, regulate, and support the system, but county and regional agencies typically do the day-to-day custody, right? The day-to-day handling of these things. So for the Ohio 16, the agency named in the funding is that South Central Ohio Job and Family Services. So it appears, at least from what was reported in the commissioner's meeting from Vinton County Prosecutor Bill Archer is that it changed between July 13th, when they requested this $1 million, and July 14th. And we have to just, I guess we should put our skeptical hat on. Maybe Bill Archer doesn't know if it's permanent or not, but I kind of feel like he would be in a position to know that there would be a change between the 13th and 14th. On the 13th, they're like temporary custody. On the 14th, Bill Archer is like permanent custody. So, and then I looked up, this is section 2151.011 of the Ohio Revised Code, specifically talking about juvenile court definitions. I think it's down on page 8. I highlighted it. Yeah, permanent custody. Permanent custody in the state of Ohio means a legal status that vests in a public children's services agency, in this case, the South Central Ohio Job and Family Services Agency, all parental rights, duties, and obligations, including the right to consent to adoption, and it divests the natural parents or adoptive parents of all parental rights, privileges, and obligations, including all residual rights and obligations. So when we're talking permanent, they're like, we are taking from you your children. They are no longer yours. You have no right to them. You have no obligation to them. You have no duty to them. We are taking this on ourselves. Why? Because we have proven to a court of law that y'all can't do it. That's really what it boils down to. And as we take these rights away from you, we assume those rights, and you never get them back. If it's permanent, you never, ever get them back. It's permanent. We could adopt these children out if a court gives us that right. This, by the way, guys, is scary to me. But in extreme circumstances, like the one in which we find ourselves, or that's overstating it, like the one in which the state of Ohio finds themselves, I think that this is probably appropriate. I think my buddy Elizabeth Jones might disagree with me, and certainly is okay with me if she does. Let's see, the next, I wondered what it looked like to request permanent custody, and I found, again, in the Ohio Revised Code, section 2151.413, motion requesting permanent custody. So this is what happens. A public children's services agency or private child placing agency. Ooh, that's scary to me. That's scary. I don't know. I'm glad this is a public agency. A public children's services agency or private child placing agency that, pursuant to an order of disposition under division of blah, blah, blah of the revised code, that blah, 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 is granted temporary custody of a child who is not abandoned or orphaned, may file a motion in the court that made the disposition of the child requesting permanent custody of the child. Public services agency or private agency pursuant to order under blah, 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 is granted temporary custody, blah, 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 may file a motion in the court that made the disposition of the child requesting permanent custody of the child whenever it can show that no relative of the child is able to take legal custody of the child. That one stood out to me because typically they're looking for next of kin, right? But if we believe what Bill Archer told the county commissioners, within 2 weeks they had already determined, we're making this permanent. We can show that there is no relative of this child or these children that is able to take legal custody of the child. Under C, they may file, a public agency pursuant to the order of disposition of blah, 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 places a child in a planned permanent living arrangement, may file a motion in the court that made the disposition of the child requesting permanent custody of the child. There are some exceptions, but basically the main thing for me was I don't think they can find anybody in the greater Siders family that they feel comfortable placing a child or the children. Which um, kind of says something, right? So in my notes, like Ohio rules prioritize these family placements, right? They must explore placement with relatives first, including non-custodial parent if appropriate. If no suitable relative is available, agencies look for suitable non-relatives with an established relationship. That's number 2. And then the state standard is the least restrictive, most family-like safe setting that meets the child's needs. So if they can find a custodial, a relative that have the ability to do it, then that's where they go first. If they can't, then they go to non-relatives that have a relationship. If they can't do that, then they go to non-relatives without a relationship. But they're looking for the least restrictive, most family-like safe setting that meets the child's needs, right? So where can the children be placed? They can be placed in relatives' homes, suitable non-relative homes, foster homes, or treatment foster homes. That's the ideal. Short-term settings, if they can't find the ideal, are emergency shelters or other temporary approved suitable care settings. They also look at group homes, children's residential centers, medical or educational facilities. And then when they get permanent custody, adoptive placement is treated as the least restrictive setting once permanent custody is granted. So once permanent custody is granted to the state, they're looking for adoptive placement at that point. They're not looking for foster homes. They're looking for adoptive homes. And I think that that's going to be challenging. Especially, I mean, you got 16 kids, and we were talking about this with Elizabeth Jones the other day, right? You would have to have, in order to take on 16 kids, you would have to have room for 16 children. Who has room for that? Very few. It's like the top 1% of 1% would even have the room, the space requirements to take on 16 foster or adoptive children. Vast majority of people would not be able to do that. So what does that imply to me? It implies to me a division of the children, which, I don't know, for me would be super sad. If I'm a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid and I have these younger siblings that I probably feel almost like a nurturing parental love for, and they're split up, I just can't imagine the pain that causes. And then the inverse is also true. The little ones that depend on, I don't think that they could depend on any of the adults in their lives, right? I mean, look at them. I don't think they could depend on them. I think that there were mental health crises going on. There were physical health crises going on. I think that there were substance abuse issues, either alcohol or drugs. There were these people were not equipped to take care of these children. And so I think the younger children probably, this is just my guess, were dependent on the older children. And then if they're split up, then that's like being taken away from the parent who loves you, right? I just both sides of it. And it's not even binary. There's a broad spectrum of feelings that are going to happen here, and that is the misery of it. That is just the tragedy of this whole thing is that it's the kids that suffer because of this. Maybe, I mean, my hope that the suffering is less so, that it will be it will be a happier situation wherever they are. My fear though is that, like, did you guys see the case that news came out today? I can't pronounce their last name, but it was a family of 6 who had 4 uh, biological children and then 2 adoptive children. And according to police, the father murdered his wife and all 6 of the children before he set his house on fire and put a bullet in himself. Like, the poor kids that they adopted ended up dead, right? So, like, that's my fear in all this. And of course there are no guarantees for any of this, but oh my goodness. I saw that and I was just like, oh, it made me think of the Siders kids. What if they are rescued from this filthy, disgusting place only to be put in a place where they're in even more danger? It's the idea of it is just frightening. Some of the information that I found, let me kind of skip ahead. Check, like, this comes from the Department of Education from the state of Ohio, okay? In the 2024-2025 school year, Ohio had 14,455 students in foster care. This is just in the school system. Foster care is defined as a 24-hour substitute care for children placed away from their parents or guardians for whom a custodial agency has placement and care responsibility. A child can be removed from their home and placed into custody of a custodial agency through an official court order or emergency intervention by law enforcement. A custodial agency is a public children's service agency or Title IV juvenile court. A child placed in foster care could live in a foster family home, foster home of relatives, group home, emergency shelter, residential facility, child care institution, or pre-adoptive home. But just in the school system in Ohio, in the 2024-2025 school year, 14,500 students were in foster care. According to Adopt US Kids, there are a little more than 3,300 children waiting to be adopted in the state of Ohio. And national share of foster care exits that were adoptions in 2024, the last data that I found was 27%. So only a quarter of the kids end up in an adoptive home. This is nationally speaking, right? So 3/4 go all the way through the foster system and then are aged out. My only hope in this, it's not my only hope, one of my hopes in this, I have a friend that I recently reconnected with, and his story is not mine to share, so I'll be very vague. But I recently connected with a childhood friend who was raised in a home where he was not taken from his folks, but he was passed around. He had a mom who had struggles, and I knew her and thought she was cool when I was a kid. I loved her to death. I thought she was rad. But they had struggles. And so he was kind of passed around. He was taken away. And he became a father when he was very, very young. And we're 50. He's been a grandfather for a long, long time already. And but the thing about when we reconnected, I was like, dude, you are so amazing. You went through this traumatic childhood that was tough, being pulled in one direction or another. In fact, like the last I really remember him was when we were 12 or 13, though he graduated from my same high school, but I never saw him because sometimes he would be taken to another school and then he'd show up at our school and we weren't in the same classes. And then he'd be like, it was just, there was just so much upheaval in his life. But then like we reconnect and we're 50 years old and I'm like, dude, against all odds, you are a terrific man and you have a terrific family and you are doing terrifically good things. You are extraordinarily ordinary, which makes you extraordinary, right? So that's my hope, and you got to hang on to that hope. That's my hope for these children, is that the likelihood 3 to 1, the odds are 3 to 1 against them that they will be adopted. They're looking to be permanently removed from their parents' home, from their parents' custody, and when that happens, they're 3 to 1 more likely of aging out of the foster system than being adopted. That's a tough row to hoe, man. It's a tough row to hoe. So I'm hopeful from seeing my friend. I'm hopeful. Let me see if there was one other. Was there? I kind of yada yada that. Let me just make sure there's. Yeah. Okay. So questions that are still kind of looming are the children all together? Are they split into groups? Are they scattered across different placements? How many of them need therapeutic, educational, medical, or some kind of residential support, right? What will the juvenile court require before granting or denying permanent custody? Are they going to require that a felony conviction happen? Or is it enough what they is are the conditions in which they found the children enough? And we won't know one. In fact, we may never know. We may never know what happens here. It's because it's juvenile court. Yeah, what's the timeline? What's the child welfare timeline? How do the criminal cases affect it? How do the gag orders affect it? Competency issues. So many questions. Just so many questions. So yeah, this case, guys, this case, I should have one graphic that has all 4 of them up. I should do that. This case of Elizabeth Siders, her husband Gary Siders II. By the way, I'm still hoping for DNA testing on this. I want to know who the children's parents actually are. Christina Siders and Gary Siders the elder. This is not just a criminal case. This is a complex case on child welfare. And I guess the only, I don't know. The push here is for permanent custody by the state. And I think as I weigh out all of the options, it's probably the best thing. I just question what kind of care these kids are going to get. And I don't know what the answer to that question is. I hope that they get the best care possible. Let me refresh what you guys are saying over here and scroll up to the tippity top. See what you're saying. Okay, Jenny. She's been a super fanatic for 7 months. Been lurking and listening. Love the channel, your coverage, Gavin, mods, and chat. Thank you for being you. Thank you, Jenny, and I appreciate your support. Hey, on Wednesdays, we've been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks now, but on Wednesdays, we have a members only and a patron only after show. So, Jenny, I hope that you can join us for the after show that will be happening on Wednesday. Gatekeeper Powell says, if we were living in the 1800s or earlier, having this many children would not be an issue. Yeah, but you know what? Like, coming from I am kind of the de facto family historian for my family. My dad was before me, and it's just something that I just absolutely love. And so I understand the history of my family pretty well, pretty darn well. When you're in the 1800s, if you had 16 children, in fact, I've been in old 1800s houses where they were full on Little House on the Prairie, where the bottom floor was Ma and Pa's bedroom and plus the kitchen, and then the loft was where all the kids slept. Right, there's sleeping porch maybe outside, and they had 12, 13 children. But sadly, many of your children, let's say, didn't make it to adulthood. So it was a matter of survival in many cases. I mean, that's a very good comment for sure. And look, Kimberly and I have a big family. It's not 16. We have 5 children. Kimberly's the oldest of 9. Her dad's the oldest of 11. Right? So for me, big family isn't the issue. It's caring for the family and putting them in squalor that is the issue. In fact, respectfully and lovingly, because I really appreciate this comment, Gatekeeper Powell. The number of children hasn't ever been the issue for me. It's been a combination of the number of children and the conditions in which they were living that is the issue. I don't know. Is that splitting hairs? Maybe that's splitting hairs. I don't know. But man, I do appreciate that comment. Teresa says $20,000 for prosecution and possibly for DNA tests to determine paternity, which would fall on the prosecution budget. Yeah, possibly. I think you're probably right on that one. Diane Fair says, Gavin, if the 18-year-old is an adult, I'm confused. How does this work? Diane, that is an excellent point, and I don't know the answer to the question, but Attorney General Andy Wilson said in the press conference that there were some developmental disabilities with that child, and so the child was being treated as a juvenile, even though by age, the child is an adult. By needs, the child is a juvenile, apparently. And this is just taking the word of Andy Wilson, right? Who knows if that is the case or not. Great comment. Couple more before we go. Not before we go, but before we move on. Yeah, Becky Johnson, in the case you're referencing, it was a DV situation. Oh, for sure. 100%. 100%. In fact, let me go over to, if you guys aren't following me on Facebook, I have recently kind of gone through a Facebook renaissance. I am doing way more, but here's that family. I don't know how to pronounce their last name. Is it Korolkowitz or something like that? But this is that beautiful family. And this is one of those things where you have to be really careful because the impression that is put forward on social media is, look at this beautiful, happy, close, tight-knit family that are just so perfect. Dad is tall and fit with a perfect hairline, and mom is beautiful, and they've got these beautiful kids, and they've adopted a couple of them, and they're on the sand and the beach with their like picturesque family, pose, and look at these beautiful kids, and oh, look at the smiles, and no, there were real problems in this house. So we got to be very, very careful when we look at things like this. But yeah, guys, check me out on Facebook. It looks like this. You can just search Gavin Fish. You'll find me. Just reached 10,000 followers, which is kind of fun. But I'm sharing lots of cases, big and small. It's not just a page anymore where I promote the YouTube channel. I'm working my hardest to provide really, really good content. So if you're on Facebook, you are invited on over there. Great comment, Becky. Thank you so much. A couple more before we go. Beauty Lover says, at least they'll be alive. That fair enough. Yeah. Yes. Great comment. Becky Johnson says, the number of kids who are not adopted is not all kids who age out. A lot are reunited or get taken in by family. The majority. Oh, well, thank you, Becky. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. I hope that is the case. If they're reunited into happy situations, I hope that's the case. But thank you for that correction. Appreciate that. Beauty Lover says they were starved emotionally, physically, and spiritually. They have to get help from good families. Jenny says won't be able to make an after show, I think, until November. It's okay. You can be on the rewatch crew too. You're always welcome to that. We're just trying to hang out and add some benefits to those of you who support me financially by being a member or patron or anything like that. Thank you very, very much. So guys, that's what's happening on the case right now. I do want to make one quick little searcheroo while I'm at it, just to see if any other documents came out before we or after we went live. I checked a little before we went live, and I might as well show you how to do this. This is the Vinton County Court View website. It's if you search Vinton County Common Pleas Court, you will find this. And this is G2, followed by Christina, followed by Elizabeth, followed by G1. And I just like to look at them. Nothing on G2. Christina. Nothing new on Christina's case. Elizabeth's case is the one that I keep looking for something because Mr. Stolley is vigorously defending her in the court of public opinion. Nothing new there. And then in the case of Gary the Elder, looks like nothing new there. So that's where we are on the case. We're going to continue to watch this and look for any new developments. Speaking of developments, we do have some developments that have happened in the Celeste Rivas case. Oh, some heartbreaking information that has come out in terms of the last texts that they shared. Remembering that this was a 14-year-old girl talking to a grown man. Savannah Guthrie has taken to social media today. We're going to talk about that. The stepmom of Brian Hooker, the husband of Lynette Hooker, who went missing in the Bahamas, has something to say about her stepson. We've got a little update on the Kata Scott case, and we've got some animal-based good news. You guys know that I'm a sucker for animal-based good news. But before we get into any of that, how about we get into 3 questions? Here we go.
It's 3 questions with Gavin Fish.
All right, friends and neighbors. In this segment, what I do is I answer questions that you send to me to the email address, 3questions@gavinfish.com. 3questions@gavinfish.com. It is spelled out, 3questions@gavinfish.com. I solemnly do promise that I will answer the questions to the best of my ability. I will not dodge. I will not ignore. I will go through all of them as best I can, but I will do it 3 at a time and in the order that I like. That's the deal. That's the deal. But send your questions into 3questions@gavinfish.com. I got a few questions over the last couple of days. In fact, I'm using a couple of them today. But I would love more questions. This one from Sharon. I think this is brownie points for Sharon, okay? Brownie points for Sharon. I like questions that y'all can play along with. Question number 1. If you could go on any TV game show, which would you pick and how do you think you would do? Sharon, I know exactly the answer to this question. I didn't even have to prepare anything. I would go on Jeopardy. And depending on my reaction speed, I would kill it My mind is so chock full of useless information, trivial information, one might say, that I'm just very good at Trivial Pursuit. I'm very good at any kind of trivia games. Going to like trivia nights, team trivia nights, I kill. I'm so good at this stuff. Don't know about the plunger strategy though. Don't know about that. So I would, for me, Jeopardy, faux show. Question number 2 from Cindy. What is your opinion on a family member forgiving a defendant for the crime committed toward that loved one? My opinion on this is that I'm really not in a position to have an opinion. My But I'm gonna tell you my opinion because those are the rules. I can't sidestep it, right? But in my opinion, every family member has the right and privilege, without judgment from me or anybody else, to feel, react, state, not state, or however they want to act in regards to their loved one. I understand and am sympathetic and supportive of it all. You know, I think about Josh and Sandy Greenberg all the time. 15 years they have been fighting the system that says that their daughter was stabbed herself in the back of the head to death. So stupid, right? And I realize, I recognize that that is a valid and brave and courageous thing to do, is to fight, stand and fight. And I think it's great. I'm also keenly aware of other folks who have said, for the sake of peace in my life, I'm going to move on. And I think that is a perfectly valid thing. Now, when I read Cindy's question, I immediately thought of one of the widows of a victim of Todd Colehep, who, Todd Colehep, if you don't know, was a serial killer, and he's still alive, in South Carolina, who killed several people. One of his killing sprees was in a motorcycle shop where he had apparently, at least he says, felt slighted by being made fun of in the shop. And so he went in there and he killed several people. And one of those people, his widow, on the courthouse steps, said to Todd Colehep, on behalf of my husband, I am so sorry that he said that to you. Please accept my apology on behalf of my husband. In my opinion, she did that for her own healing. It does nothing for Colehep, but finding that forgiveness in her heart, I think, was healing to her and has allowed her to move on and hopefully have a beautiful life. So, in my opinion, she has the privilege of forgiving and expressing remorse and those kinds of things. I the the one thing in our lives that is not the one thing, I keep stating it incorrectly. One of the things in our lives that is emotionally damaging to ourselves that we have complete and utter control over is whether or not we will forgive others. Uh, I understand and am completely supportive of somebody who decides that that's not the route that they are going to take, because that is a valid human emotion. I also understand and am proud of those that do find forgiveness, because it's better for them. It's not better for the person that they forgave. In fact, I'm aware, and I've shared this before, but I'm aware of a case in California where a young, stupid, intoxicated person ran over and killed a child and like a young woman, teenager. and he was found guilty, of course, of I can't remember exactly the crime. It was probably like manslaughter or something like that. And the parents of that teenager in court asked the judge to be lenient on the killer of their child. And why would they do that? Because they're trying to find healing. They're trying to be made um, whole or healed. They're trying to heal. And for them, they knew or believed that it was only through forgiveness that they could do that. So I'm all about it. I think it's beautiful. And without judgment, I accept the behavior of people who don't. Yeah. Great question. Cindy, thank you so much. Question number 3. Oh, hard left turn, guys. What is your favorite summer barbecue food? Oh, I'm a man of simple tastes. I'm not a hot dog eater. I don't like hot dogs. I do like sausages though. And like good hot dogs that are coarsely ground and are made from like not pink paste, but from like good meat, not meat food, but meat. I'm cool with. I do love the humble burger. I do love the brat. Uh, I I love steak. However, I think it's the sides where I'm going, and I think it's like the humble barbecue potato chip. I love barbecue potato chips. Barbecue tater chips are delicious. Also, I do love a nice, ripe, sweet watermelon. I love it. So does that count? They're not barbecued, but they are at a barbecue. I love those. Oh, have you guys ever had barbecued pineapple? Oh my goodness. Okay, so that one's on my list too. I do love barbecued pineapple. Oh, I could have just a barbecued pineapple sandwich. Like, it's also great on a burger. Like, you barbecue the burger, you barbecue the pineapple, you put it on the burger, put some barbecue sauce on that, onions. Ah, it is terrific. But also, if you were to take off the burger and do everything else, it is also terrific. So, yeah, what's my favorite? But it's probably those barbecue potato chips are my favorite. And I can't wait to hear what your favorite is. In the live chat, don't forget to send me your questions to 3questions@gavinfish.com. And while you are telling me in the chat your answers to the questions of, if you were going to go on a TV game show, which one would you pick? How would you do? What's your opinion about family members forgiving a defendant? And what's your favorite summer barbecue food? Answer the one or all of those questions. And while you're doing that, let's get into some headlines. There's some big ones. Here we go, Javi.
True crime headlines.
Hey guys, I want to start out with the Celeste Rivas case. Okay. The preliminary hearing has come to a conclusion, and we have a result. We also have some gruesome details. Okay, so we're gonna treat this with kid gloves, but only in that we care about our victim, not that we care about the perpetrator. Alleged. We care about his rights, I guess. Anyway. DeForvita to stand trial for alleged murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, judge rules. This from CBS News, written by Chelsea Halton, Jasmine Veal, and Austin Turner. A judge has decided that the murder case against singer DeForvita, who is accused of killing 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, will go to trial after 5 days of a preliminary hearing that dove into gruesome details of the teen's death. On Monday, Superior Court of Los Angeles County Judge Charlene F. Olmedo gave her decision that prosecutors have presented enough probable cause to proceed with the trial. The arraignment hearing was set for August 31st. You may be asking, arraignment? Hasn't he already been arraigned? Yes. He was arraigned in the lower court. Now we're going to proceed to the higher court, and there will be a formal arraignment, August 31st. Over the past several days, prosecutors have called nearly a dozen witnesses to the stand and presented graphic pieces of evidence to build their case against, I call him DeForvida. He goes by David, whose real name is David Anthony Burke. During the preliminary hearing, investigators testified about Burke's sexual relationship with Hernandez, blood stains at his home that matched her DNA, and details about her autopsy. Burke, 21, is charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances, lewd and lascivious acts with an individual under 14, and mutilating a body. So that's all of that one I'm going to share, because we've got another one that is maybe a little more detailed. So let's go over to people.com. This was published a few hours ago. Last texts revealed between DeForvida and Celeste Rivas Hernandez before he allegedly killed her. Written by Christine Pelisek, Danielle Bacher, and Nicola Costa. The last text messages between Celeste Rivas Hernandez and DeForvida, who is charged with murder and other offenses in connection with her April 2025 death, have been revealed in court. During the fifth day of his preliminary hearing on Monday, July 27th, this very day, y'all, LAPD robbery homicide detective Corey Farrell continued his testimony detailing the final messages sent between Rivas and the singer, whose real name is David Anthony Burke. One day before prosecutors say Burke fatally stabbed the 14-year-old girl with whom he was having an illegal sexual relationship. Thank you. Oh my goodness. The reporting on this the whole time has just used the language that the prosecutor's office said it was a sexual relationship. It is not a sexual relationship. It is SA. So thank you for putting illegal in there. With whom he was having an illegal sexual relationship, the two argued over his friendship with another woman. Quote, "And you really saying you'd end your friendship just to be friends with her over me is disturbing and disgusting to me on a deeper level, David," the 14-year-old wrote to Burke on April 22nd, 2025. Burke allegedly responded, "What did I say I'd end my friendship with you for her?" Rivas later texted that she would end your career and your life. The next day, April 23rd, 2025, Rivas said to Burke, saying he had one more chance to tell her the truth. She also threatened to leak all of the S on him if she saw him with the friend again. This is one of those moments, man, where okay. Listen, I want to speak plainly, but I also want to be respectful and loving towards Celeste because she was a child. She was a 14-year-old child. So the word that I would use is ignorant. But in the classic definition, she just didn't understand. She was unknowledgeable about the danger that she was in. Not that she was putting herself in. He put her in that danger. But she didn't understand the danger she was in. And this is something that we all need to learn, guys. We all need to learn that the human animal, especially when taken to the extreme, and especially when the male human animal is taken to the extreme, the amount of violence that is capable of being perpetrated is sometimes unthinkable to the victims. They just can't imagine it. But we've got to be able to imagine these things, guys. Okay? Celeste was an innocent victim and ignorant of the danger that she was in. And this right here is an indication. You have one more chance, said the 14-year-old to the grown man engaging in SA of a child, or I'm going to leak all this S. Dangerous. and she didn't even know it. Later that night, continues the article, the text we need to teach our children this without giving them a fear of the world, because most people are good, and it's really easy to lose sight of that. Most people are good. This very day, I was interviewing a person in my community for my day job as a reporter, where I sat across the table from him going, "Holy cow, this is a great person." And and you know what he was talking about? He was talking about all the other great people volunteering around him. Right? So like most people are good, and there are many around us who are great. And we need to remember that, but we also need to be vigilant, and especially our daughters need to learn this. Okay, continuing the article. Later that night, the text showed Burke ordered an Uber for Rivas from near her Lake Elsinore, California residence to his West Hollywood home. At 8:34 p.m., Burke texted Rivas updates on the Uber's arrival. She applied okay. At 10:01 p.m., Rivas texted, "Girly Pop, I'm almost there. Open your door if you are home." Burke responded, "Got you." And about 10 minutes later, he added, "Gate open, door unlocked." Rivas never sent another text. Prosecutors believe that she died between 10:10 p.m. and 10:31 p.m. on April 23, 2025, 2 days before the release of Burke's debut album. About 20 minutes later, because he's an idiot and was trying to cover up his crime allegedly, Burke sent a series of messages asking where Rivas was. "Hey, I opened the door. I unlocked the gate. Where are you at?" At 11:37 p.m., he texted, "Bro." Then minutes later, he was going to call someone because "you're scaring me." Around midnight, he sent another message, "Where are you, please? Give me a break." You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a series of texts and emails and voicemails left by one Samuel Goldberg as he reportedly, by him, stood outside the door of an apartment where Ellen Greenberg lay dead. Trying to cover your tracks. Okay, continuing the article. Prosecutors also allege Burke's phone and car left the area of his home at 11:31 p.m. that night and repeatedly traveled to an area in Santa Barbara. By the way, TMZ reported this, and they were kind of taken to task by the LAPD. Like, "You don't know that. Your sources are all bad." And yeah, while TMZ, it is true that TMZ is a gossip website. Also, they do a pretty good job at getting sources. They really do. But anyway, California Highway Patrol Officer Sean Buenrostro previously testified that a transport worker found Rivas' passport at that location in Santa Barbara on January 7th, 2026. On Friday, July 24th, other text messages between Burke and Rivas shown in court discussed a pregnancy and abortion. According to Farrell's testimony, the pair exchanged multiple texts during their illegal, I'm going to call it during her SA by him, about abortion, birth control, Plan B, the emergency contraceptive pill, and breaking up. More than 40 images of CSAM involving Rivas were found on Burke's iPhone, as well as several photos of the two engaging in sexual activity, Farrell testified. During Friday's testimony, Rivas' mother, Mercedes Martinez, became visibly upset before she was encouraged by Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman to leave the courtroom. Quote, "This is too much," Silverman said. "I know how hard it is." Prosecutors alleged the two began communicating on August 8th, 2022, when Rivas was 11 years old, and began the illegal SA of Rivas in November 2023 when she was 13 and he was 18. Rivas' remains were discovered in 2 bags. Yeah, we know that. And then we've heard this one. "All we do is have sex and hang out, man. I want more for myself without a label. 2 is insane. She allegedly wrote, "Yeah, boundary setting is terrible," he allegedly responded. "It's not even that, David. I want more than just that," she replied. And then there's other stuff that we have read that are part the burn box, the autopsy, the everything. This, guys, was a case of a child being lured in by a predator with perfectly crafted bait exactly for her. And I would not be surprised if there were other victims as well. Okay, continuing our headlines. Savannah Guthrie shares a new video plea to bring mom Nancy Guthrie home. Savannah Guthrie has shared a new emotional message pleading with the person who may have taken her mother to do the right thing and tell us where to look for her. We can show this.
Today with a very specific message. It has been months since our mom was taken from us. Our family is in agony. We are in a nightmare that will not end. Nothing about our situation has changed. We have done our part, and we will never stop looking for her. We will always ache for her and feel that hole in our hearts. The world can be a cruel and unforgiving place, and I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her. Tell us where to look for her. I truly believe it is never too late to do the right thing. Help us bring this situation to an end. For all of us, no matter where we've been and what we've done, I believe there is always a way home. Please make the right choice.
So that is the video from Savannah Guthrie. And I guess I don't need to read the rest of that because we just watched the video, but she did that today. Let's see. Turning to the Lynette Hooker case, Brian's stepmother says investigators never called her. This written in foxnews.com by Kelsey Cairns. Knowing what I know about Brian, he lied about everything, Brian Hooker's stepmother, Donna Hooker, says. She discussed her stepson during a live stream appearance on the Surviving the Survivor podcast. Shout out to Joel. And revealed she is determined to help investigators track down any leads in the case regarding Brian's missing wife, Lynette Hooker. Lynette, a 55-year-old mother from Michigan, vanished from the Bahamas while on a sailing trip with her husband on the sailboat Soulmate. She was reported missing April 4th when Brian told investigators she fell from the dinghy. And then, yeah, we've covered it. But Donna Hooker told the outlet she believes she could provide valuable insight as authorities continue investigating Lynette's disappearance. Donna Hooker, who was married to Brian's father for more than 40 years, said she lived with her stepson during part of his teenage years in the 1980s. She described him as intelligent, quiet, and reserved. She said investigators in both the Bahamas and the United States have not reached out to her, but she is willing to answer any questions. Quote, "He had his own room and everything, and he would stay in his room all the time," she said to the outlet. To Joel, "He was quiet, and for a long time he would just stay in his room and not do much of anything." She said over the years it became harder to get a hold of her stepson. She said she and Brian's late father, George, would try to reach out to him through his sister Jennifer, who lives in California. Dawn Hooker told a journalist the last time she saw her stepson was in April 2022 when he visited his father after George Hooker suffered a stroke, and she has not heard from him since. So, yeah, that's interesting that stepmother would be like, "Oh, I got stuff to say for sure." And then in the Kata Scott situation, I look for the Kata updates in Kata's case every day. Still nothing. But this, I thought was. Do you guys remember Kata Scott was a young woman, recent graduate of college that was allegedly murdered by Keon King, having been lured out from her work. Anyway, this from 6ABC in Philadelphia. A Philadelphia nonprofit honored the memory of Kata Scott this weekend. The 23-year-old was murdered last year. The organization She Is You, which supports survivors of DV, highlighted Kata's story during its Great Give Back event in Center City. During the ceremony, Kata's sister Kinsey received a scholarship as she prepares to go off to college. Quote, "We are supporting families and individuals impacted by intimate partner violence, DV, SA, and the other SA," says Shakina Rush, founder and executive director of She Is You. "We want to support those who feel like they don't have a voice." She Is You also provides support services, including mental health, housing, and employment and educational resources. So good on that organization for doing what they do. That is absolutely terrific, and I will keep an eye open for updates on Keon King's prosecution. I do it every day, every single day. Okay, the last headline I have for you is good news. Wanda, what are we going to do for our good news transition music today? You ready? All right, take it away. I like the time changes. It's pretty great. I like that one, Wanda. That's good transition music. Cleanses the palate, right? We can move from what we've been talking about into a good story, which will cleanse the palate for us for the night so that we can turn in and do a little Betty Bye more relaxed and more recovered. So here's a story that I found that I absolutely loved. It comes from the UPI, written by Ben Hooper. Missing Nebraska dog turns up in Indiana after 5 years. Oh my goodness. Okay. A Nebraska family was reunited with their missing dog when he turned up 5 years later at an Indiana truck stop about 642 miles from home. Lincoln resident Immaculata Jackman said her family's dog Chong escaped from home in 2021, prompting a years-long search for the missing pet. Quote, "I still looked for him," Jackman told KOLN TV. "We still went to our old neighborhood and drove around and looked to see if we could see anyone walking him or if he was running around somewhere." The search finally came to an end when a friend sent Jackman a Facebook post from the Hendricks County Animal Shelter in Indiana. Chong had been found outside the Love's truck stop in Pittsboro, about 642 miles from home. Jackson contacted the shelter, but there was one problem. Chong had been microchipped by someone else in Lincoln sometime after his escape. Quote, "Since he was chipped to someone else, they had to follow protocol," Jackman wrote on Facebook. "They attempted to contact the phone numbers on file. However, they did not receive a response after the 3 days they had to wait." Chong was put up for adoption after the required waiting period, and Jackman made the drive to Indiana with Chong's brother Cheech to bring the pet home. Quote, "He recognized not only his owner, but his brother as well," the shelter wrote. "He has a full home filled with open arms, eagerly awaiting his return." Chong's journey during the past 5 years remains a mystery, but Jackman said she and her family are just happy to have him home. "Never lose hope," Jackman said. "It's been 5 years and we found him." And that makes me super happy, and it reminds me of my dad in his childhood had a little dog named Lady who ran away or went missing, and it was like some months later in a different part of the state, hundreds of miles away, a relative saw Lady with another person, called her. She came to him, so he kidnapped Lady and brought her back to my dad's family. They were missing Lady. I don't remember for how long, but it was like It wasn't 5 years, but lady recognized my dad's relative, recognized her name, came running. It was definitely her. She was brought back to my dad, and the family was reunited. That's pretty fun. So that made me happy. That made me really happy. All right, let's finish out the day with your comments. Let me go over to the right screen here. First of all, Robin says with a super chat, thank you, Robin. I received my Neil the Seal T-shirt today and decided you needed to know that. Neil the Seal. In Slack, I got to see Neil the Seal T. Got to see it. It's not unless there's a photo, I will not believe, Robin. That's funny. All right, let's see. Chloe, circa 76 says, "Hi, Gavin. Happy Monday. Just now joining. I'll go back and listen on replay." Thank you very much, Chloe, and thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate you. Let me just keep on going back here. All right, we're going to go back as far as I can. Melissa says, "Gavin, number one, the answer is Price is Right. I'd probably be good because I'm good at estimate of prices these days. Number two, I would just have to find forgiveness. For me, that's more peaceful. And number three, barbecue." I don't know if she continues later on. It got cut off. Let's see. Shaunabo says, "If this counts, I'd go on The Amazing Race. Love traveling and I like the challenges." That counts. Yeah. Becky Johnson says, "We care that justice is done in David's case." Yes, we do. Robin says, "My favorite barbecue food, hobo packs." Ooh, yes. I like them. Tinfoil dinners. In foil, you add seasoned ground beef, diced potatoes, carrots, some onion, add a teaspoon of butter, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Close the foil pack. Cook and yum. Cook in a fire. We do different meats. You can do chicken, you can do steak, you can do fish, you can do whatever you want. We love that stuff. Yes, that is good stuff. I don't know if it's as good as just the humble barbecue chip, though. Mary Shaw says, "If it is cooked outdoors on a grill, it is my favorite. Happy eating." Thank you very much, Mary. I love that she called him Girly Pop, says dietitian. I don't know what that means. What does Girly Pop mean? Let me look. I'm too old. Girly Pop is an affectionate internet slang term used to address or describe a close female friend, a hyper feminine person, or anything lighthearted, cutesy, and fun. Okay. All right. Melissa says, "I taught both my now adult son and daughter when they were younger about listening to their gut feelings when getting into bad situations." Yes. Good. Gavin, Teresa, you're breaking the rule. You're asking a question for 3 questions. Send that in to 3questions at gavinfish.com. Coffee Time for D says, "She thought they were in a relationship. It wasn't. It was SA." Correct. But she thought it was a relationship. She didn't know there was danger. Indeed, she didn't. And you can't blame her. She's a kid, right? Coffee Time for D says, "The adults around them, as they did things together, are just as guilty as he is. They didn't protect her and they knew." I think so too. That doesn't only include his parents. That includes like record label execs and managers and other adults that were around, for sure. And Becky Johnson says, "Again, they correctly called the images with Riva CSAM." They did, and that's great. I am really glad that they're doing that. Robin, I don't know why I don't know what happened there, but I appreciate your support nonetheless. Moni says, "Who knew Wanda could go from barbershop to Eye of the Tiger vibes?" Yeah, she's got that arena rock down, and she's just in a small little audio booth with every instrument that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it's jam packed in there. You know how like on stages at concerts, keyboardists will have like 9 keyboards stacked up. That doesn't even compare to what Wanda does. She's got the arms of the Hydra and the talent that just doesn't stop. Couple more. Mooney would go on Password. Jenny would go on Press Your Luck. Love Jeopardy and do trivia monthly with a group of family members, but I would freeze on TV. I'm sure I would need to phone a friend. That's funny. Nana of 16 says, "Former foster parent in PA, foster homes can only have a max of 6 kids total at a time. Oh, thank you for that. Alberta lady says, I think that forgiveness isn't about anything more than the person giving it having peace with that decision, not for anyone else to judge. Good for you. You said it way better than I did. Way better than I did. And guys, let's call it there for tonight. Thank you so much for your participation. Thanks for being here. You're always invited to join us over in the tank on Facebook, or just check me out on Facebook. The easiest way to find me in the tank is to go to gavinfish.com, click on this little fishy up in the corner, and that will take you to the fish tank. It looks like this. Or you can just search Fish Tank Fans of Gavin Fish on YouTube. You'll find it. If you search my name, you'll find this. I look the same throughout all of social media. In fact, I am wearing right now that very shirt in that photograph. That's pretty funny. That is, I like this shirt. The sleeves are a little too short. I think I'm going to have this shirt altered into a short sleeve shirt, but I've ordered a new one where I have given them a little better measurements. It was my fault. The tailor did a good job. I just gave them the wrong measurements. So anywho, check me out on Facebook, check me out on Spotify, and continue checking me out right here on YouTube Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Most times, sometimes if I'm sick or traveling or something, I miss it. But for the most part, here I am Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, which means I will be back tomorrow. So hopefully I will see you there. And until then, I bid you adieu. Thank you very much for spending your time with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.